I'm Aaron Baker from PhoneDog.com, and it's part 2 of the full video review of the Nokia Lumia 1520, a supersized Windows Phone 8 supersized with the hands and all Windows Phone 8 device on AT&T. Can this thing compete with the Galaxy Note 3, the Xperia Z Ultra, the Optimus G Pro, and the other big devices on the market? Let's go find out in part 2 of the full video review. It's part 2 of the Nokia Lumia 1520 full video review. It's a Windows Phone 8 device, but it's a supersized Windows Phone 8 device. Microsoft and Nokia are entering the phablet fray at Windows Phone 8 style with this big device. Before we get too far into it, I'm going to thank my partners at Best Buy Mobile. They give us devices like the Lumia 1520 that we give to you for free at PhoneDog.com. So if you go in to buy this at Best Buy Mobile, they'll hook you up, get your live tiles working, get FlightAware if you're an aviation geek like me, or American Airlines. All these things downloaded Chase, for example, because it's part of their walkout working program where they make sure you're walking out with everything you need before you leave the store. Take a look at Best Buy Mobile. But let's jump into this and let's do a quick spec recap. And then I want to dive into some of the things that make this device unique, because obviously it's a huge step forward for Windows Phone. It's got a great 6-inch 1080p display. There's a lot to like about this device, but as usual, it's going up against other established devices like the Optimus G Pro, the Galaxy Note 3, the HTC One Max, and the Xperia Z Ultra. Does it offer enough to make it worth buying? That is what we're going to find out in part 2. Let's do a quick look at specs here, just to give you a recap. If you watched part 1, you know this, but it's got a 2.2 gigahertz quad-core Snapdragon 800 CPU. It's got that 6-inch 1080p HD display, so a huge display right there in between the 5.7-incher on the Galaxy Note 3 and the 6.44-incher on the Xperia Z Ultra. Really a big display all around on this device. As you would expect, a little bit hard to hold in the hand. We'll talk about that a little bit more in part 2 here in just a second. But 20 megapixel camera with 1080p HD recording as you'd expect, 2 gigabytes of RAM, 16 gigabytes of internal storage. The differentiator here, it's got a micro SD card slot for expandable memory as well. Nice big 3,400 milliamp hour battery as well. Overall standby time is great on this device. The biggest issue I've had with the battery, obviously, as you'd expect, that 6-inch display takes up a lot of juice. So when you're running this device continuously, checking stuff, checking your email, browsing the web, and it's not on a whole lot of standby time, you're going to see that battery drain pretty quickly. Taking a look here, 6-inch 1080p display obviously gives you more room for real estate on the front of the screen, on the home area, on the live tile area as you see here, and you've got your typical 3 live tiles as I talked about in part 1. You can move these around like any other Windows device, Windows Phone 8 device, as you see fit. So you can see, of course, the color differentiators here as well. All those customization options are still intact here. You can change background from light to dark, for example, and then, of course, cobalt. Switch that out, using that as an example, obviously. Switch stuff out, customize it, and make it your own, but obviously the differentiator here is the fact that you've got more screen real estate for more tiles. Sizes don't change, but more options to put stuff on the home screen and customize it and make it your own. Of course, you've got the options that we've talked about in past Windows Phone 8 videos as well. We'll go into settings to take a look at this. Go down here. Actually, let me go to lock screen so you can see this. A couple of different options for your background on your lock screen depending on what you have installed. If I travel a lot for work, for example, so I could use American Airlines as my background, it would show me upcoming flights and things like that. I have Twitter, Facebook. I just have it set to a photo right now, but one of the things I like, and this is great in some ways, confusing in others, I can choose an app to show a detailed status. So messaging, for example, is a big one for me, and then I have my options on here where it shows where everything pops up. So for example, if I have a missed phone call, it'll show up in the bottom left-hand corner. If I have a missed tweet, or a tweet I should say, it'll show up in the bottom right-hand corner. And where you see that is down here on the home screen. Now I get, say I got a text message, for example, I'd see a preview of the message right here, I'd see missed phone calls, and then I'd see my missed tweets over here on the right side. So you can customize that and move it around. Hey, it just told me my battery is draining quickly. That's probably because I've got it on full brightness and I don't have it turning off, or I have it turning off every 5 minutes. So obviously draining relatively quickly, but all the Windows Phone 8 stuff is here that you would expect, where you get some nice value adds. One of my favorites from the LG G2, or I shouldn't say it's from the LG G2, Nokia had it a while back, but one of my favorites, double tap to activate the display, and I can turn it on without pressing the power button. Also a huge fan of the micro SD card slot. So just talking about pros versus cons in this device, kind of getting more into the nitty gritty. Display is gorgeous here. I mean, I can't show you this well enough on the camera, but 1080p, beautiful display here. The tiles look fantastic. Photos look fantastic on this device. Coming into photos, for example, we'll take a look at the camera roll, and you can see it's going to be kind of hard to show you on camera, but just looking at this, for example, I mean, really beautiful color all around. Just looking at this picture, and we can scroll back and take a look. Office, really beautiful color all around. Camera doesn't do that justice. The display is definitely a defining thing on this device, a defining feature on the Lumia 1520. So you've got that. The camera itself is fantastic as well. 20 megapixel rear-facing camera here. Button on the side to take pictures, one of my favorite options here. You've got a physical button, so I bring in another phone, for example, the HTC One Max to take a picture of. I've got the button here where I can half press to focus in and full press to take the picture. I love that. I think results, can't talk today, it results in a more accurate picture as far as I'm concerned. So you can see here, just using that as an example. And of course, you've got kind of the same customization settings you have on the Lumia 1020 here. You can change your white balance, your focus, your ISO, and then I can back out of that as well. And I can see all of those shortcuts right up here. So if I change those around or activate the flash, I can do so. And then of course, I've got the smart camera mode here as well, where I can take kind of a burst shot of pictures and select from there. I've got my video camera, got my regular camera, and then of course, I've got, and I should point out that this is a lens on the Lumia 1520. I have the original camera as well that comes with the stock version of Windows Phone 8. And you can see, of course, photo and video settings there. Now, by default out of the box, this is configured to access Nokia's camera. When you press and hold, you can change that in the settings if you want to. And like I said, Nokia, as you know, and Windows Phone 8 as a whole operate off of these lenses. So you can download additional lenses from the store. And of course, you can revert back to the regular camera. You got Bing Vision, you got Twitter, and then Viclone and more. You can find more lenses through the store. Going in here, for example, let's go to the store. I don't think I have a shortcut on my home screen. Let's go in here to store, and let's say, Nokia collection, for example. And we'll come down through here, and I can download additional lenses like, let's see what we've got here. Nokia Share, Nokia, all this stuff's downloaded. Nokia Storyteller is downloaded as well. I've got Nokia Refocus. Let's see what else. Nokia Video Upload, Photo Beamer, Cinemagraph, here we go. Video Trimmer, a bunch of different options where I can customize the camera. So instead of having them kind of pre-installed out of the box like most OEMs do, or Android does, for example, where you've got stuff pre-installed out of the box, you download these lenses and you configure the lenses in the camera department. That said, glad to see Nokia camera over here on this device. Really pleased with it. Like the ability to change the white balance. And it's kind of fun to mess around with this stuff and make it your own. White balance, ISO, can change all this stuff around. Change white, for example, move it up and down from auto. I can move the ISO up and down. You can see the picture changing, obviously, as I do that. I've got this. And then, of course, move all the stuff up and down. ISO, white balance, all that stuff, change it around and really make the picture my own. You can see here, we'll go into settings, for example, so you can see what I'm talking about here. Got two different capture modes, or a capture mode of 2 pictures, 5 megapixel camera, 5 megapixel image, 16 megapixel image as well for cropping, 5 megapixels for sharing. So nice to have a smaller picture to share in the event that I don't want to send that whole huge file to a friend over email or over text messaging. So that's a nice little feature there. So camera is nice. Another one of my favorite applications on this, we'll go into here, Maps, for example, and take a look at Nokia's here. And we'll go ahead and hit next here. We'll go into what's new. And let's take a look. Let's pinpoint this, or searching for my places. And come back here and take a look at my map options. I've got map, satellite, I've got live site as well. So a lot of different options here on the map. And you can still download these for offline use as well. So zooming out, you can see obviously I'm in Dallas, and I've got where I'm located. And of course I can search here and see collections. I can do directions as well from, let's say, my location to Panera Bread, for example. If I want to grab some lunch after I shoot this video, I can hit 2 and put that in and get walking, bus, and of course car as well. So really it's a fully featured application that I like. I can download the maps, as I said, and use these for offline use. So maybe you don't want to use data while you're in London. You can download the maps beforehand and access those while you're traveling without having to connect to Wi-Fi or connect to your data service on AT&T, for example. So really nice to have that. Another one I use on a regular basis on Windows Phone 8, Local Scout. I think this is one of the coolest applications. And we'll go in here and take a look. Eat and drink, we'll see the sites, for example, so it's going to identify pretty quickly that I'm in Dallas. As soon as it does, we'll move forward and take a look at how it performs. Another great application here. So we talked about some of the pros. Some of the cons that I find about this device is the biggest one for me, the lack of software in terms of content creation. So you see Windows Phone 8, but really it quite literally looks like they've just increased the text size. There's no real differentiator here to this device to maximize the large display. Eat and drink here. Now that it's loaded, we'll pause that and take a look. See and do. I've got my shopping options here. It's a great application all around. I like the ability to go into, for example, I'm in San Francisco and New York pretty regularly for work, so nice to have those options. Another one of my favorites, Nokia Mix Radio here, where, for example, I can create my customized, this is formerly Nokia Music. I can subscribe to it for $3.99 per month or use the free service where I get up to 6 skips per hour. So I have my country music station, for example, and you can see Diamond Rio's Beautiful Mess playing, and then of course I can hit the quotes to get the song lyrics, and if I want to subscribe to Mix Radio Plus, I can do that for $3.99 and get those for free. I can also share to SMS, for example, here, and I can say, hey, play me mixed radio. I can share that with one of my friends, and that's a nice little touch as well. So talking a lot about those Nokia ecosystem-based applications, really some great options here on the Lumia 1520. That said, really, and I keep harping on this, but you know, there's gotta be a differentiator in these large devices. You can't just have a scaled up experience of Windows Phone 8 or of Android, for example. You need something to distinguish and take advantage of the large display. You see that a lot on the Galaxy Note 3. You see it to an extent as well on the HTC One Max. I really want to see them maximize that screen real estate, and I see a lot of opportunities, a lot of missed opportunities here, for example. I mean, it quite literally is Windows Phone 8 just scaled up to a 6-inch display, and that's something that I wish they would change, or perhaps they will change in future versions, but would love to see, you know, for example, split text here in the messaging, or the ability to perhaps multitask on the device, you know, using two things on the same screen, for example. I mean, you got the screen real estate to do it. It would make for a great feature and a great angle for Windows Phone 8. Otherwise, you know, comparing this to Windows Phone, it's the best out there. If you're invested in the Microsoft ecosystem, or if you're just looking to try something new, it's a great device. It's up to date with specs. The price point is reasonable, $199 with a 2-year agreement, lots of different colors. Really an awesome smartphone all around. The biggest con, comparing it to other large smartphones, again, the One Max, the Note 3, the Optimus G Pro, the Xperia Z Ultra, it presents one of those cases where you're like, I wish there were more value. As content consumption, browsing the web, looking at videos, great on this big display and beautiful colors. Content creation, you know, drawing on the screen, multitasking, things that you would do with a larger display device, a little bit more of a challenge and something that they need to build out a little bit on Windows Phone 8. Keep it locked on PhoneDog.com for more. I'm on Twitter at PhoneDog_Aaron, Facebook, Facebook.com/HiAaronBaker. Let me know what you think of the Lumia 1520, and stay tuned for dogfights, because we're going to compare this one to the Optimus G Pro, the One Max, the Galaxy Note 3, the Xperia Z Ultra, and more to compare, you know, big device versus big device. We'll find out where this thing really succeeds in a lot of areas, where it struggles in a lot of areas in comparison to Android and some of the other devices on the market. Keep it locked right here for more, and as always, I'll see you next time.